Hey everyone, God bless you, and thanks a lot for tuning into Tech Tuesday. I have my warm wool cap on because here in Southern California it's freezing. At least it's freezing for us. It's in the 50s. But I guess I'm in my warm office, so maybe I don't need it. I have prepared a reflection today that I have entitled Silicon Valley and its Borrowed Moral Capital. And I'd like to talk with you a little bit about that. You know, the incredibly powerful tech titans that drive Silicon Valley and our major companies and don't just dictate so much with regards to development here in the United States, but globally, they have almost universally a materialist worldview. None of them are committed Christians. None of them are committed to any traditional religion and therefore have no traditional religious ethic at all. They have great interests that have captured the affection and the interest of the whole world. They have interests in advancing human health, in increasing brain capacity, in eliminating disease, in building a more sustainable world. They have lots of wonderful things that they're involved with. But lacking a moral framework is a terrible liability, and the consequences of tech development without the bounds and the accountability of a developed religious worldview is frightening and really awful. If you read books of the tech titans about their projects and about their ambitions and about how they see the world developing and the advancement of computers and artificial intelligence and these types of things, you'll see that they make many references to the elongation of pleasure and helping to reduce pain and increase pleasure in the human life. Of course, that's not a very high moral worldview, but it is something. It is something. In its most base form, you can see it in, for instance, the work of the cellular biologist, Dr. Aubrey de Grey. It's a very, very influential biologist who's trying to eliminate cellular death so that we can live, Methuselah lives, so to speak, and be 900 years old. And when asked why he's doing this and why he cares so much, he simply said that so many women, so little time. How's that for a developed ethic, huh? Yes, the goal to eliminate disease apparently is so that you can live in debauchery permanently. Not all are that crass in their articulation. They know that that's not going to win popular support in a religious culture. And so they often speak about helping people. We want to do this because we want to help people and we want to eliminate pain. I was reading recently some of the work of Ray Kurzweil, and he was having a debate with someone about how many human body parts we should replace. And this person was saying, look, if you keep making alternative body parts and replacing them, there's not going to be anything human left. He said, well, where do you stop? Because there's still a lot of human suffering out there. You see the appeal. There's still a lot of human suffering out there. This is the justification for more and more technological, unchecked technological development. My question is, where in the materialist worldview of these tech titans does helping people and eliminating human suffering fall? And how can they justify it? If there is no God, there is no eternal God. There is obviously, as a consequence, logically, there are no eternal moral norms. And who says that helping people, especially people who are just qualify as people, they're not kings, they're not rich, if that really is an ambition, where do you get that worldview? That is not a common ethic in the history of the human race, for sure. The idea that all people are made in the image of God and are absolutely precious, and that they should be served regardless of whether or not they're rich or influential or royalty. This is not a universal Christian, universal human conviction. This is something that came out of the Jewish tradition and was even more developed in the Christian tradition. So I just wonder how they justify that and how they can. And in fact, they can't, They have no moral base to lift up such an exalted moral value. Once again, they're living off the borrowed capital of the West and of the Christian roots of the rest without giving due credit. And I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's so obvious that they can just make these appeals. And I think they're freewheeling with these matters without giving due credit is not good, because it removes a layer of accountability. And if there's one thing that tech needs right now, it is moral accountability, big time. If the goal is to help people, we have to ask this question: what is really stopping people from being helpful? Is it that they don't have enough tech? Or is it that they don't have a heart of service? They have a heart of selfishness. The greatest hindrance to helping people is our own self-centeredness, which God has come to change. The Lord Christ is here to change us from self-centered people who love only our own pleasures to become people who love God and love people chiefly. He's coming to work a miracle in us of putting other people's interests above ourselves, about helping other people bear their cross as he has come to save us. So the natural result is to serve others. If the Lord Christ, the co-eternal Son of God, left his glory and became a human being in order to save us from our enemies, and if he says, I have not come to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many, then you see those who love him and are imitating him and want to be like him would exalt service and helping people to this level. It's not primarily a tech problem. That's not to say that tech can't create avenues when people have a heart to serve, that those servants can become more effective. Certainly that's the case. But the real issue about helping people is not technology. Take, for instance, this recent horrid earthquake in southeast Turkey and northern Syria. This earthquake over which we are mourning, since so many tens of thousands have been killed and something like 180,000 are trying to be rescued, or at least given proper burial once they can be pulled out under the rubble. So many churches destroyed, so many Christians displaced, especially spiritual children of the Greek Orthodox Patriarchate of Antioch and all the East, like myself, are especially mourning, since Antakya, ancient Antioch, the home of St. John Chrysostom, the place where believers were first called Christians, according to the Acts of the Apostles, was so decimated by this earthquake, and our beautiful cathedral there of Saints Peter and Paul just horribly razed, and so many of our churches. Who's there now to help? If you've been paying any attention and reading any of the press, you'll see that it's Christian relief organizations, together with some Muslim relief organizations. What you don't see are a bunch of secular materialists there, despite the fact that they say these things in their books, that they want to do this to help people and eliminate human suffering. Who's really on the ground doing that? Well, it's people with religious conviction. That's the bottom line. If our tech masters perfect tech, for instance, as some are trying to do, to control earthquakes, maybe to make earthquakes, how will that tech be used? We have this idea that you have to create the evil in order to figure out how to control the evil, right? This is what the justification was for gain of function research with regards to the coronavirus, right? You make more and more dangerous viruses, and then you learn how to control them. Well, how is that working for us? And so if we develop tech that make earthquakes, are we really just going to use that tech to limit earthquakes, or are we going to use that tech to cause earthquakes on our enemies? If we use nuclear technology as a paradigm, as a prism through which to judge how we will use advanced tech that is claiming to be developed to help people, and whether we will use it to help people or we will use it to destroy people, I don't think we have very encouraging evidence that that's going to be used well. That kind of powerful technology, if it's not combined with broken hearts, if it's not combined with hearts that are striving towards godliness, extremely dangerous. Take, for instance, the technology of in vitro fertilization, IVF, right? What's the justification for this horrid intrusion into the sanctity of the relationship between a man and a woman in holy matrimony and the formation in the miracle with God of creating a child? What's the justification? Well, to help people, right? That's why IVF is supposed to be there. In vitro fertilization is supposed to be able to help people who can't conceive. When we first started talking about this, of course, there wasn't much of a national conversation about whether IVF is right, whether it should be done. Where are the ethics boards? Where are the accountability of in the medical profession to morality? Where is that? And so what has happened, practically speaking? Far more embryos have been created. Far more small children have been created and put into freezers for commercial reasons. When an egg is harvested, no doctor wants to just harvest one egg or two eggs from a woman. So the vast majority of procedures of IVF are multiple eggs fertilized, and only 1, 2, or 3 implanted into the woman's uterus. And what happens to the rest? Well, nothing. And they're kept in freezers or disposed of. How's that for the use of technology? No, dear ones, it's very, very important that our tech masters, that Silicon Valley and its borrowed moral capital, used when they want to appeal to it, without giving due credit to its root and foundation, this has to stop. It's time for Silicon Valley to get an ethic, to submit to God and to the principles of religious morality before more destruction takes place. God be with you, and thanks a lot for tuning in.